Good evening, everyone in YouTube land. This is Jack, the Fat Cyclist. I have had a busy week this past week, getting a lot of riding in, but unfortunately I didn't get too much time in to really sit down and talk. So I'm here at a local park just relaxing in a hammock, stretching out and taking a little break while I get a day ride in. I am now about 3 weeks away from the start of my 12-day tour around Michigan in support of the American Diabetes Association, with the Tour de Cure as my kickoff event ride on August 30th. I am attempting to raise $500 for the American Diabetes Association for this ride, and I'll have a link for that support in the description down below. And I've also signed up for the Great Cycling Challenge, which is for children's cancer research, and have pledged to ride 1,000 miles in the month of September during that. Given that my 12-day tour around Michigan is going to be 700 miles by itself, that's a pretty easy goal to hit. So I'll put a link for the fundraising for that one down in the description as well. And it would very much be appreciated if you were to donate to both. Anyway, with the riding that I've gotten in over this past weekend, I intentionally got riding in when the weather was not so great. There was a lot of rain that happened on my rides and while I was in camp. This, of course, is to get myself ready for next month when I have a scheduled ride that I pretty much intend to do rain or shine. So I have to be ready for whatever the weather's going to throw at me. As far as that, on Saturday I rode up to Lakeport State Park. That was a 65-mile ride, and getting out there, it wasn't so bad. It was mostly cloudy. There wasn't too much in the way of rain getting there, but I knew that there was rain in the forecast going to be hitting in the late afternoon to the evening, so I had a deadline on when I needed to get camp set up. Once I got to camp and got everything set up, I did fairly well doing a first-time setup of both a tarp that I ordered off of Amazon and a tarp tent Stratospire tent that I picked up for the intention of using it for this trip. I wanted the Stratospire for the trip because it is a tent that can be set up with the Rainfly already attached, which means if I have to set it up in the rain, I don't have to worry about the interior being wet as well. That was one downside of the Alps mountaineering tent that I had previously used, because you have to set it up and then add the Rainfly afterwards, at which point your interior is basically soaking wet. But I had no problem setting everything up, and I used the tent basically applied off of just to the side of the tarp tent to provide a kind of garage for putting my bicycle and trailer underneath, so that they're protected from the elements as well. Had a rather unique challenge at the Lakeport State Park campsite that I got, because the trees were about 40 feet apart, so I had to use a combination of my main ridgeline rope for the tarp as well as my feed bag line to make a line long enough to actually pitch the tarp, but it worked out fairly well. didn't really see too much of rain in the evening, but through the night it did rain a few times. Never got anything under the tent and tarp wet. In the morning it was semi-dry, but about 7 a.m. it did start a torrential downpour for a couple of hours. Thankfully, by that point I already had everything packed up and ready to go, and I was able to duck under the restroom underhang during that storm until it passed, and then I started my ride home after that. It was at that point, I was about a third of the way home when a heavier storm was rolling in. Looking at the radar, I thought I'd be able to ride through the thing in a short amount of time and then just be on my way, but unfortunately it ended up being 11 miles and an hour of pretty heavy downpour as I went through. But I managed through it okay. The bike managed through it okay. All my gear managed to stay dry miraculously, but that just says that I had a really good setup on the way I had everything packed. And after that, it was very much an easy ride home. Nothing more of significance happened. And then took Monday as a rest day, and then Tuesday I went out to Algonac State Park. Much shorter ride, only 35 miles. One of my goals in heading out there was a delicious place to get some barbecue called Foxfire Fixins, and had the company of a couple of roosters while I enjoyed my food. Then went down to the town of Algonac and tried to get a little bit of fishing in. Didn't catch anything, but that's what way it is most of the time. And when I got back to this campground and set up my tarp, had a little bit of rain, and the mosquitoes were horrendous. And after thinking about it for a little bit, knowing that the rain that was going to be happening the rest of the day was going to be driving the mosquitoes out of the woods even more, I decided to go ahead and pack up and ride home from there. Now, I may not have done a campsite, but I did have the attempt of setting up the tarp in the rain, which went fairly well. And then again, I had another heavy downpour on top of me on the way home, but everything stayed dry with that. So Having had 2 significant episodes riding in the rain, I feel confident that I am going to have no problems on the 12-day journey. The biggest problem I think I might have is if there are 2 days in a row of heavy rain and I'm not able to dry my clothes out properly, I'm going to have a trouble with having my laundry taken care of during those rides. But short of that, I think I'll be able to go non-stop and have the 12 days done without any problems. The ride to Algonac and back ended up being about 78 miles, which is a personal distance best in a single day by itself, let alone having the trailer of equipment along with me, which ups the difficulty significantly. So I feel pretty good about my distance capabilities and have no problems there. So my week off from work is done. I'll be going back to work starting tonight, and then I've got 3 weeks before the big ride's going to happen. I wish I could have more days off like this, though. It is a spectacularly perfect day out. You can hear the gun range off in the distance as people are... But you can't ask for better days than this. It's not too hot. It's a nice, comfortable weather. Hope it's great weather, wonderful weather wherever you are, and yeah, I'll talk to everyone again in a couple of weeks. Again, links to the fundraising that I'm doing down in the description. I very much hope that you will participate and help me out in my fundraising goals. Have a great night.